morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're at in the country. My name is Eleni Sommerschield. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Wise Agent. I am joined today by the fabulous Carol Perry, one of my dearest friends. And I love this platform that I get to pick out all of our guests. So if you guys haven't gotten clued into that, but I always pick it like people that I love and admire and look up to. And Carol, you're definitely one of those people.
Right back at you, my friend. Right back
Oh,
at you.
yeah. And Carol's like 20 minutes that way from me, from our office. So at HomeSmart. And so, Carol, you are the Chief Business Development Officer at HomeSmart International here in Scottsdale, over there in Scottsdale. I'm in Fountain Hills. So we're going to be talking today about start the new year right by using Wise Agent CRM. So how are you getting, how you guys are going to get started in your CRM? We've got a couple more weeks in the year, and we need to figure out what's going to happen come January 1st, what every agent is going to be doing, how you're going to be leveraging your CRM to grow your business in 2024. So that's the topic of discussion today. If you guys wouldn't mind going on the chat on the side there, or on the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat button, and put in what city, state, and brokerage you're with, and how many years you've been doing business. I love seeing where people are coming from and how long they've been in business for, because that gives us an idea of who our audience is, right, Carol?
Exactly.
So
That's always
yeah.
fun too, because we see friends from all over the country that we get to talk to.
Exactly. So, and we've asked you guys before joining today, to pose some questions to us so we can prepare for this webinar and answer some questions for you. And we were just talking about that a second ago, and we had someone right in from the Bahamas, and Carol and I were both like, okay, we'll volunteer. We'll take one for the team and go to the Bahamas and set up this brokerage's CRM for them. So
Eleni, we've been looking for an excuse to travel together. There it is.
I know it is. We would have so much fun. We'd have a blast. So we've got people maybe from the Bahamas. I just saw somebody's name. It just scrolled too fast. Is it Carrie? Carrie from the Bahamas. So welcome to everyone. So Carol, we're talking about how to set up the CRM, and I think such an important aspect of it is the first thing is what we do here at Wise Agent is every single person that starts using Wise Agent has an opportunity to schedule a one-on-one getting started session. And this, I know you've gone through it. A lot of people, if you guys are currently using Wise Agent, you should have gone through it. If you've not gone through it, it's not too late because we can still audit your CRM for you and see if you've got everything done kind of right. But what's nice is this onboarding session is this one-on-one interaction with someone from our team, getting your profile set up, your email signature. That's so important to make sure that you're able to send out emails. And then also getting all of your integrations and your lead sources, getting them coming in automatically. So that automation that's behind it. I think that's a key thing in setting up any kind of platform, is setting up all the automation from go, right?
From day one. That's right.
It's just getting that. So that's that first step. And that's something that our team can help out with. And I know Sarah's on moderating too, and I'm sure if she hasn't already posted in there how you guys can set up your getting started session if you currently already have an account. But so then once you have your database put in there, because that's a really important aspect, is get your data all in one central location. That is the whole purpose of a CRM, contact relationship management. If you don't have all of your contacts in, then you're behind the 8 ball. You're not able to do anything. You can't, you need to start from there. At least that's my opinion. How about you, Carol? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. I do want to back up just a little bit, though, because I think it's important to note, yes, you mentioned I'm right down the street, right down the way from you, just a few miles away.
Mhm.
We started, both of our companies started almost the same time. And to be able to watch what's happening now at Wise Agent versus what was happening over 20 years ago, but from the get-go, Wise Agent has always made it such an important part of your world, agents, and that's what's been so phenomenal, is that this company has been built for real estate agents. Everything that you do from day one has been, okay, how do you get organized? How do you get your database together? What do you do when you have a database? What if it's only in a spreadsheet? What if it's a sheet of paper with a bunch of written things on it?
Yeah.
From day one, you all have been holding our hands, and that has been so critical. And I feel like letting everyone know that it doesn't matter where you are in the process, there's a place for you here. And Wise Agent is a huge help with that, no matter where you are in the process, whether you're starting as an individual, whether you've been in business and realize, holy cow, it's gotten ahead of me and I don't know what I'm doing here. I've kind of got a mess going on. Or you've got a team. It doesn't matter what point you are in the business. Wise Agent can always be so helpful. So yeah, I'm a huge proponent, getting organized for sure.
Well, and you've known Brandon for pretty much the whole time that Wise Agent has been in existence, and that was his whole
Nobody
main.
ever believes me that that's his last name either, by the way. I say Brandon Wise, they go, mm-hmm. I go,
I
no,
know.
really?
I know people say that to me too. Is this last name really Wise? And I'm like, no, it really is. Like, I've met his mom and dad. Yes, that's their last name. And there are owls all over the office, not just here in my office. I have like 2 or 3 in my office, but there's owls everywhere in the office too. But yeah, so I mean, it's like one of the core functionalities for us is that if you don't have like a good base foundation within your CRM, if you don't have, like that perfect jumping off point of saying like, okay, here are all of my contacts, and it doesn't matter, like you said, where they're coming from, like you have to get them into that, getting into that one central location. So into the CRM. So take them from your Post-it notes, from your phone. I mean, I know everyone's, we're all attached to our phones. Every person that I meet goes into my phone if I'm like mobile somehow, and so then it has to then, easily flow into the CRM. There has to be an easy way of doing that. And so that's why we have like the Google Sync and everything else set up. So having that one interaction, but everyone is different, right? Like, so I have an iPhone. I think you do too, right, Carol?
Yep.
Like Brandon has an Android phone. And I always tell him like, you need to get off the Android and get on the iPhone.
There's people on this call that will be
I
on
know.
Android.
I know, but then I just saw their like new commercial for the Android phone. And I was like, oh, that's really cool technology where you can like take the best of like the one image and whatever.
Mhm.
But anyways, so Android does have some really cool advanced technology. But in all seriousness, though, is that everyone has a different setup. Not just your phones are different, but then the way you're running your business is different. So having that one interaction with someone from our team to help set it up really well from the beginning for your specific purpose is at the core of our business here. So, I don't know. I think, and I don't know if everyone else feels this way, but I think like that's the part that I think people sometimes get timid about calling and saying like, okay, so this is how I run my business. I have a team, but then I also have, these other 2 teams that kind of run adjacent to me, and I'm the broker, I'm the, team lead or whatever is happening. It's really important to just spell it all out for us, and then we can help you from there.
Yeah, and not to be embarrassed when you have things that can be even a scrap of paper.
Yeah.
I see that Sarah put in the chat box about scheduling the one-on-one for onboarding, and oh my gosh, like I said, from day one, you all have been doing that. It's of course evolved and changed so much over the almost 24 years.
22, 22 years.
22, yeah. So I think that's right, because you're right behind us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has changed, it has evolved incredibly, but that one-on-one hand-holding has not changed. And I love that as big as you've gotten, you still are able to help everyone and really from the get-go get them, so to speak, organized.
Exactly.
Because every successful agent you talk to, it didn't happen on accident. They'll tell you, I have a system in place. And it wasn't until I got that system in place that I started to become the success I am today. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's like a whole thing, is that you have to have that system. And if you don't have something that's ready, and I think that's why this time of year is kind of a great time of year to say, okay, things are already slowing down. Like people are starting to celebrate holidays, starting to travel and starting to do things. So maybe, business is maybe a little bit slower for you guys. And that's like, this is the time where you have to invest in yourself and invest some time into your CRM and get things set up. So then when the busyness does start back up, you're prepared and you're not like, oh, shoot, I wish I had, and whatever it is, I wish I had more time. That's my biggest downfall is like not having, right? All of us, we all have that 24-hour window and that's it. That's all we get in one day. So maximizing that. And I think that's where like automation comes into play. But there's a lot of things that they can do. I know. So part of it, like Carol, when we were talking about this, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, like what are some of the things that you think that like people can be setting up right now, like setting up some ideas and, on what they can be doing to drum up some new business. So then they're not like, it's January, February, and they're like, okay, I still have 0 people in my pipeline. Like, what am I going to do now?
Right, right. Well, we talked about a few things, which right now the holidays are upon us. This is a perfect time to reach out. Those who are trying to find an excuse to reach out, now's the time. And you better hurry up. Oh my goodness. When I looked at my calendar and I was like, wait a minute, next week is like, here it comes.
Yeah.
So the holidays, tax preparation, reminding everyone of what they need to be doing right now, preparing for taxes. Don't forget, now's the time.
Yeah.
I hate waiting till the last moment. And certainly Wise Agent can help in so many different ways with that, getting us organized and task mastering. If I didn't have tasks set up for me, I don't know how I would go through my day. And you're right, Eleni, having enough time, period, giving yourself some time back by having a system in place and being able to trust the system that you've put in place. Take the time. We all say, oh my gosh, I don't have time to do that right now. And you're like, well, wait a minute. If I don't do it now, when am I going to do it?
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Right.
not gonna, you're not gonna find any more of that. I think for me, like what I do, like I travel a lot, as most of you know. And so what I've done is, I try to use my CRM to its fullest. And I've been looking at some of these comments and, before we join the webinar, some of the things people are like, I've been a subscriber for years and I just really haven't fully set it up. And I think setting it up to its fullest potential depends on what you're doing, right? But one of the things for me is as I travel, I'm like, okay, I'm meeting a lot of people and I need to keep notes on things. And so for what I do is I put everyone immediately goes, I have Wise Agent on my phone, I open up the app, I put in, my contact record, and then I use voice dictation because sometimes I'm having to walk from one meeting to another or do something, to prepare for the next meeting. And I'm just like, I can talk faster than I can type. And so I just click on the notes portion of it on my add a contact, and I can speak all my notes in and then be done with it. Take my notes within 3 minutes and it's done. I also
Don't you love that feature?
Oh, I love that. Right.
Talk about a time saver, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you just can't, and you have the importance of notes. It just comes up every single time. If you guys think about it, like anytime you've gotten bit in the butt by like something that you just like, oh, I didn't take notes on that. And what was that thing that I was going to put a caveat in here? And it's, if you get bitten by that because you didn't make a note about it to remember, all the details behind it. And so keeping really good notes and accurate notes makes a world of difference in our industry. So
What's really funny? I got a quick story that
yeah.
Brandon may or may not remember, but years and years ago, I was meeting with him with my team, and we were all it was like a confessional, explaining how we really were organizing or not organizing our database. And I brought in a shoebox full of index cards I know some of you are laughing at me, but I also know some of you probably had the same thing back in the day. And I had a shoebox full of index cards and they were alphabetized. And I thought I was so fancy because I had all these great notes. And then I told Brendan the story of when I was driving in my car and I slammed on the brakes and all the cards went flying and they were no longer alphabetized in my mess. And I said, but look, and I pull one out and I'm like, here's the people at the front desk's names. Here's their kids' names. And he's like, that's great, Carol. You know how much easier I can make your life. And It was like a whole different world for me, but yeah,
Yeah.
so.
Well,
He may or
yeah.
may not remember that story. He
Well,
laughed at
and
me when I brought the
yeah.
shoebox in.
But it's true. I mean, it is. It makes such a world of difference when you make comments, like personalized comments, like as agents, calling people up, right now for the holidays and saying like, hey, Susie, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is you're going to say to them, but then being able to like recount like who their children are, how many children they have, or if they have like their spouse and their names and their pets and what kind of pets, all of that information, because that's what people hold near and dear to their hearts. And being able to recall people's names and their pets and whatnot is really important to them. So that the notion of keeping notes on who is this person, so you can kind of get an overview of what they look like before you even get on the phone with them, so you know what it is that you're going to say. So and there's some questions in here on the chat that I'm reading about, okay, you've mentioned Wise Agent on your phone. Is that a website or is there an app? So if you go to your phone, it doesn't matter if you have Android or iPhone, you just go to wiseagent.com on your browser, like on Safari or on Chrome, and then you can go ahead and just add that as a bookmark onto your homepage, onto your phone. So it is a mobile responsive website on your phone. And then you can just open it up and just add things to it. So I do access that a lot. And there's like the mobile version of it, and then there's the full site that you can go to. So that's how that would work. And then a couple of things, the Google Contacts and that integration, how does that work? So that's something, I don't talk too much on these webinars, like too much detail on specific things, just because like, especially on the Google Contacts, because everyone's got a different setup. So that's something on a one-on-one, because the way your contacts should be set up is individual to you. Like, unless you have every single person in your Google Contacts and you have no other, no spreadsheet, no Post-it notes, no, none of that other stuff happening, then you could it's a click of a button and everything comes over, right? But if you have other stuff, you need to have a quick conversation with our team on that. But notes is a great way to get yourself, like getting yourself in the habit of taking notes in a system, so then you don't have the shoebox incident that's now Carol will always call it as the shoebox incident.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
And now you were asking also, now is perfect time over the holidays for sure to organize your list, to take that time to go ahead and organize. Now's the time. If you haven't done it yet, this is a perfect opportunity.
Definitely. I mean, you have segmenting your audience. I can't, I guess, be on a webinar without saying that word, segmenting your audience, or that phrase. It really makes it's such a huge difference in what your day is going to look like once everything is done. Once you segment it, and I'm going to share my screen here really quickly so you guys can see in the contact list. Segmenting your audience, and everyone can do this differently. You want to choose your categories based on maybe, if they've been buyers or sellers or both, or investors, new home buyers, whatever it is, or potential clients, however it is that you see fit. That's how you would like manage your categories. Your sources would be how you came to acquire that lead, right? Or that contact, how you came to acquire this person into your CRM. What was the way that they came in? Did you buy them through one of the portals? Did they come in from your website? What happened? Where is this coming from? That makes a difference in that source. And that might make a difference in how you speak to them, right? So if you meet somebody at Starbucks and you've had this hour-long conversation with them, that's going to have a different connotation, like a different conversation than somebody that just came in from your website that you've never talked to. But I wanted to show this because I think this is really important, is to be able to, one thing that we have is these categories that make us a little bit different than most people. Some CRMs out there, you'd have to put like, oh, what year they bought their home in. We actually have spots for that. So you can search specifically for their important dates. Like, so you can say specifically, when did they have like their wedding anniversary, or when did they purchase a home? When did they purchase, you know, a second home or a summer home or whatever it is that you want to put in here. So you can put in there second home purchase. So now I know, and then I can put in the date and save this. And then that becomes something where now you can track this and you can see a really clear picture on what's happening here for this particular person. Okay. So segmenting your audience is a really important thing. What else, Carol? What else did we talk
I
about?
think what you just showed is such a great example of the simplicity of it, how you all make it so easy to use it. There's not intense training necessary. So I saw a couple comments about wanting to see features and what have you. And I know Sarah's responding to those about how there's so much help for you at Wise Agent. But yeah, I think just being able to see that everything that has happened is so easy, so simplistic. You know, it's like, okay, how is the agent thinking? This is what I love about you and love about Brandon and your team, is you're always thinking from our perspective. Okay, what is it that they would need, and what's the easiest way to go about doing that, adding that feature, adding that contact information is awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, that's, I mean, the automation is where you save time. And that's been, you know, one of the things that, I mean, everyone wants to is save time and money, without, you know, spending too much of the time, spending too much money, to make that happen. And that's kind of the balance there, is that you don't have to take too much effort and too much time to do it. You set it up once, you can tweak it along the way. You can tweak the automations, you can tweak your categories and say, okay, well, these categories no longer make sense. I've now, you know, instead of, you know, now I'm like 4 years in the business or 10 years in the business, and you want to change things, your business is an ever evolving thing. I always think of a business as a living, breathing entity. It is something that needs to be fed, it needs to be nurtured. And so it should be updated regularly as well. So your contacts, your categories, all of those things, those should be updated regularly. They shouldn't be static. I just don't think that that's how that should ever be in a business.
For sure.
But so some of the things, you know, we talked about, like the holidays are coming up. So if you're segmenting your audience, you can, you know, make those phone conversations and do things. And then, you know, come January, the holidays are all gone. People are bringing down their decorations. People are like, all right, now all the parties are over. What am I going to do? I think that's also a good opportunity for people to be reaching out. Like, it's, you know, families have gone back home. Kids are back in college and in their dorms and doing all their stuff and doing everything else. And so taking that next step and saying like, okay, well, now what's my outreach going to be for that first quarter of 2024?
We talked about previously about agent appreciation or client appreciation parties, and you mentioned about renting out a movie theater, and I love that idea. I thought, God, that's such a great idea and good time of year to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, there's so many different things. I know one of my friends up in I think in Portland, she rents out like a movie theater. You can do all sorts of things like Valentine's Days, you know, in February. You can do some kind of contest, like decorate a cupcake or whatever it is and post it on social media, take a picture of it, tag me in it, like as your agent, right? Not me. Tag your agent in it and do this. You can have some kind of contest. There's a lot of things that you can do to like grow your business through your contacts. You know, and so once you have that full picture of who they are, you could, you know, friend them or follow them on social. They could follow you on social, and then you can do these sort of things on there. Having contests on there is one great way. Having client appreciation parties.
Well, and it takes planning and preparation too. And so we're talking about things that you could be doing in February, March, et cetera, but you need to start planning that now. And
yeah, because and that's where, again, the organization, if you don't have people's phone numbers, if you've not talked to them, like someone closed a home with you 2-3 years ago and you haven't talked to them since then, this would be a good opportunity to do it. But I would say like probably call them and or send them some kind of, greeting for the holiday season. And then you follow up with them like, oh, and by the way, here's a save the date for whatever, February 20th. And, knowing that that's what you're going to be doing, like your client appreciation party or whatever it is. But that's something to always plan for. And again, I mean, a lot of it is the planning and seeing and forecasting into the future of like what you're going to be doing, for sure.
Well, and we talked about how, Thanksgiving, of course, is a great time and a reminder to thank those that you've done business with, not just this past year, but years prior. I think the end of the year is just as appropriate to be able to say, as I'm closing out my year, I can't help but think of you and how you've helped me in my success. So I do think this is also a good time. People say, oh, I should have done that Thanksgiving. Like, no, it's year end. It's also a great time. And by the way, thanking and reaching out to folks, reminding them that they've played a part in your life is important at any point in time. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. I don't think it's ever too late to say thank you to somebody. I don't think that's ever the case. I'm seeing some questions about our transaction management tools, and I think this would be a good time to share because, we were talking about like planning a party or planning some kind of event. Well, this is where you would use Wise Agent to help you with that process. So just like when you're selling real estate, you can have like, we don't have a template in here for you for planning a party, but it's the same concept. I mean, every party, no matter what, you have to send out your invitations 4 weeks in advance or whatever it is, right? So you would come in here and you would say, party planning, and then you would put in all of your, important dates. So like the date of the party is kind of critical to a whole entire checklist, right? And so then it kind of goes off of this whole central premise of when this party occurs. And I'm going to just, form fields you can put in here, like the location of it and whatnot, and the context, like who are your vendors, like who are you renting the, movie theater out from, or who are you ordering the ice and the cake and the beer and the whatever from, right? But then it's all the tasks that go in there with it. So send out the invitations. Well, and you can have a trigger that automatically goes out to remind your admin, hey, can you, mail out these invitations that I have. They need to be mailed out, or send yourself an alert that they need to be mailed out by a particular, date. And so then you can say, I don't know, let's say 45 days before the date of the party, these invitations need to go out. And so now you can do all of that, include that trigger of saying, okay, these need to be on that due date, like maybe 2 days before that due date. I need to make sure that I'm getting that alert stating that these invitations need to go out. So that's something that can help you. And then just on the real estate side, it could be, I'm, maybe listing a property. And so I want to put in here, when I'm going to be ordering the sign, and when I'm going to be creating the flyers, and when I'm going to be putting in the MLS and doing all of those things. And again, the triggers can be to trigger your team to do something, or to send a message to your clients saying, hey, we are going through this transaction and here are some steps. And maybe you have a whole entire drip campaign taking your client through the whole entire process. That would be really, that's that kind of sweet spot when you get into maybe a few years into the industry and into the business, that you set those sort of things up.
I'm so glad that you showed this feature, because I absolutely love it. And I know you're showing it for planning a party as a sample or as an example, but the truth is, you can use this for anything. And truth be told, once you start doing this is when you can start coming up with other, oh, here's a trigger I need to put in here. Here's a date I need to add. This is something else at another point along in the process that I need to put in here. So I think, yeah, the checklist template's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. And because like I said, even in the, on the transaction side of things, as far as like a real estate transaction and not planning a party, this is a nice way of getting your messaging out there automatically. So if you're, putting in a lockbox, you can have a text going out to maybe your to the checklist contact, to the person that you're going through the person that's selling the property, saying, hey, we're installing the lockbox in a couple of days, just so you're aware, blah, 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 blah. And you can explain that process to them. And then once this is saved, and you initiate a checklist off of this template, then at the appropriate location, at the appropriate time that you've set up, they're going to be getting that text message or that email or whatever it is that you've set up, saying like the lockbox is being installed. And so you've set it all up maybe in December, but your transaction isn't, the list, you didn't get a listing until February 1st, let's say. You've set everything up beforehand today, and it's just, you're ready for like a smoother process in the new year. And that can continue, not just obviously for that one transaction, but for all of them after that. That's the beauty of how our transactions work.
And it reminds me when you're saying that of when you have a new hire and you're training that employee and you're like, oh, I don't have time to show them everything. And then you're like, but wait, once they learn how to do it, there's such relief. And that's exactly what Wise Agent is like. So
Absolutely. So true. It's like you have to put some time in to train the system, to tell the system what to do.
Yep.
And then once you tell it one time, unlike humans, right? Or teenagers, it will, it will just do it, right? Without you having to nag it to continue to do it. So, our triggers, when we released those, gosh, earlier this year, that was like that feature was used before we even really started releasing it. Like it was, we'd talked about releasing it, and then before we did a knowledge base article and blog and everything else, like people found it and were like, oh my gosh, they were just calling in, walk me through doing this, because it was, people can see the value of it. They can see the value of how that would work. Yeah.
Isn't it true that some of the best features that you have at Wise Agent came from agents that said,
Oh yeah,
oh, it'd be so
100%.
cool if I had this, that, or the other thing. And you're like, okay, let's figure out how we can add that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I travel as much as I do, is I
Yep.
go out and I listen to what brokers and agents and team leads are saying, like, what are their pain points? And then we come back, I listen to what they say, and I tell my team, like, okay, I feel like a lot of people are asking for this. Like they're needing, when Chat GPT came out, and I see someone's asking, is there AI in the CRM? When that came out last year, November, Brandon, Mike, and I were out at lunch, and I'm like, you guys, I think I looked at the API docs. I'm like, we get this done like in no time. Like this can happen pretty quickly. And we did. Within like a month, we had released it, our integration with ChatGPT. And so now you guys are able to use it. We figured it out where, so we go through an API. You don't have to go directly to ChatGPT and sign up for an account and do all that stuff. And back last year, earlier this year, when you were doing that, people were prevented. It had grown so quickly, so fast that it wasn't like their servers weren't able to scale as quickly as their growth was happening. But through our API, you weren't getting those like server connection timeouts and all that other stuff, where we had figured it out for you guys to easily, seamlessly go in. And I'll show you guys how to do that. Just go in through our content library and start using our writing assistant, and giving it a prompt and saying like, write I don't know, 300-word email about a lockbox being installed at a home for sale, right? And so I don't know, what am I going to say to somebody when I'm installing a lockbox and whatever it is. So you give it the prompt, and you can be as specific as that, saying, I don't want it to be more than 300 words. And I want it to be, and I could even put in there in a professional tone and doing this, that, and the other. So really, you can come in here and select whatever it says, always go back and read it and proof it and make sure that it's accurate. And then type in whatever you think it needs to be changed, and then do that, right? And then you save this and reuse it. It's not, you don't have to use a different email every time you have to have a lockbox installed at one of your listings. It could be the same thing. Nobody cares that you sent that to Carol and you sent it to me. Like we're not going to compare notes on that. It's save yourself some time, save yourself some money, and aggravation and thinking all these things up, and then it'll just happen for you automatically. So yeah, I do love that we do all
I
of that.
had not seen that yet. I love it. Love it.
Oh, I don't know.
Super cool.
I
Super
can't
cool.
remember. I can't remember who I demo what for. And so,
So
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I love that part. But there's also more AI in there in Wise Agent when you're getting your leads set up. So if you're buying leads from any of the portals, this is another thing. Like you're spending money on these leads, no matter which portal you're using. You're acquiring leads somehow, even if it's from your website, that there's still a cost to that. You want to make sure that they're being responded to. That's the biggest thing with any of these with any leads, is the problem becomes that there could be an overwhelming number of leads that come in, and that could overwhelm you in the response. And how do I do this? And I don't have time, and I'm at a showing, or I'm at a closing, or I'm with my family. Well, use the automation for yourself, so then you're not struggling to keep up with it. And you're not having to say like, okay, I'm gonna have to give up my the zip code that I've dominated for so long, that I've been paying for. I can't keep up, and I'm not seeing a return because I can't keep up with it. Don't do that to yourself. Use the automation.
I can bet there's some people listening that are feeling that same way. Have said, oh my gosh, this is exactly the point I was talking about. You don't have to be a new agent. You can be one that's been seasoned, that is a seasoned agent that is just feeling overwhelmed at this point. So
yeah. So you can set it up and say, I want it to go out to, I want a drip campaign to go out. I want a response to say whatever it is I want it to say, or a text message. The beauty is that you can use our AI texting bot, where if you utilize this, all you do is you tell it, is this is the target audience a buyer, a seller, a renter, or is it for a new home, a new construction loan? So you can come in here and say they're probably going to be a buyer lead and this, that, and the other. Now the chatbot, what it does is helps nurture that lead that you've spent so much money on, or you've taken the time to send them to that traffic to your website. So then you can acquire them as a potential client. You want to take the time to actually respond to them. So if they've reached out to you, speed to lead still matters. We're saying this, that term for the last, 7, 8 years? I don't even know how long we've been saying that, Carol. Speed to lead makes a difference. You've got to respond to somebody that's reaching out to you. If not, they'll go to somebody else around you. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. And our lead management tools will help you do that. That's a big thing. I think the other thing too is making sure that, so you're setting all of this stuff up, right? So set up your, and so even if you're not buying leads from any of the portals, if you have a website, you should have those leads coming in automatically from your website. It's just, that's a no-brainer right there.
yeah, it's that easy, right?
It is. And then if you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm getting traffic there, well, then that's okay. You can start promoting it. If you're like, oh, I don't know if my website is, it's got a lot of stuff to it, and I get people to go to it and then they don't fill out the contact form. That happens to a lot of people. And so what we've come up for a solution on that is landing pages. If you guys aren't familiar with what a landing page is, some people call it a squeeze page. Some people, what are some other terms for it? Lead form or whatnot. It's just one single page where there's just one purpose to it, and that's to collect contact information. So I just want, I'm going to, have this tips to sell. I'm just wanting to collect first, last name, and email here. And so I just want you to come here and see, oh, I have some real estate tips. Well, I've posted this, and we've made it really easy for you to edit all of this. and then even more simpler on how to share it. So you can share it on Facebook with a click of a button, and then get people, drive traffic to that. So you can have people share it on a Facebook business page, or share it to a Facebook group that you belong to, or that you've started, a page that you've started. And then that way you get some eyes on that. And now you're not doing anything, you're not paying for any leads. You just have people coming to this landing page saying, oh, I need some real estate tips. I'm thinking about that. And so now they can reach out to you, give them their contact information to you. And now you can, go ahead and start a conversation about what it is that they're looking to do in real estate. That's another big one, like how to capture more of an audience, right? Is you don't always have to pay for it. At least I'm not I mean, you should have some kind of method to it. You really need to have, like, grow some presence on social, and then from there you can start paying for it as well. But you want to test the waters out, and do a combination of both. So do a combination of that organic reach as well as the paid traffic. In the paid traffic, we have digital ads that are doing that. So you can have like a Google ad, Facebook ad, and then run that in conjunction with the lead management tools. So, and the landing pages. So you can have all things at once, so you can create the landing page to direct your paid traffic to go to that, so they can fill out their contact information, have the lead rules respond to them automatically. They go into the CRM, you put them on a drip campaign, the drip campaign goes off and has that conversation, or the AI chatbot does, having that conversation of nurturing, and then use transaction management to go through the transaction and close the deal, and then restart them all over again on a drip campaign, so you can continuously nurture them for the next time they make a purchase. So that's the whole cycle right there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a lot, but if it's set up one time, you don't have to set it up over, you don't have to set it up a second time. I mean, you can make a copy of it and do one for buyers, one for sellers, and then that's it. Really, just change out some images, change out some wording, but it doesn't take much effort to do all that. So, yeah. Gosh, a lot of questions. I'm not keeping up with thank goodness Sarah is.
Sarah's doing a great job. I'm seeing what she's doing over here, but I will say, and I saw the one about being a beginner and not understanding a lot of what you're saying right now, and I get that. I think the most important thing to remember here, no matter where you are in this process, is don't look at the whole thing all at once and get yourself all overwhelmed. I've got to fight I got to climb the whole mountain all at once. No, parse it out and figure out, okay, first I need a database. First I need to figure out how to organize that database, and then go step by step, instead of looking at all of it and saying, how am I going to get all this done today? You're not.
No. Yeah, no, you're not going to set all of it up in one day. I mean, you can, but that would be a lot to undertake. I just don't think that that's necessary. I don't think it's necessary to do it all in one day.
Well, and if you're like me, I think once you start working on it, then you come up with all these other ideas of, oh, this is going to help simplify that. And oh, this is going to remind me of this. And and like you said, and like I talked about earlier, it's like hiring another person, and yes, there's a training process, and yes, there is, be patient with yourself in the learning, and utilize all those tools, utilize all the resources that are available there for you, to help you get up to speed, and don't be afraid to ask the questions. So,
yeah. And I think that last part that you said too, don't be afraid to ask the questions, like reach out to our support. I mean, we even have a community where people are willing to share information.
Hey, if I can show Brandon my shoebox with all my index cards 20 something years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally true. It's just, sharing information with people, even especially outside of like your, like the markets that you serve, will really help you. I know, there's a there's quite a few people in our community that openly share. Tamara and Zusa is one. I know Greg Hanner, Ed Brittingham, like those are a few people off the top of my head that I can name, Nick Liebert in Chicago, like that are always happy to, share what it is that they're doing. So then you don't fall into some of the things that they've fallen into, and we're like, ooh, shoot, if I would have done like a landing page first and then, oh, okay, now I see how this all works.
Yeah, yep.
I am a more technical person. Sorry about that, guys. I am more technical in nature. So for me, sometimes some of this stuff, I'm like, oh, this is so simple and easy. Like I can see the full picture and the full cycle of things. But, that is something that our community is great at. And then that's what these webinars are about. It's these webinars and this podcast is for giving you guys ideas and thoughts on like what you can be doing. Like we're not going to go through like training. That's what our team is for. They'll train you on it. So if they're like, oh, Eleni and Carol, we're talking about having a client appreciation party. Like, how would I do that within Wise Agent? How do I set that all up? Our team has videos and stuff for you guys to follow along with, or do some group training on for that. But I think still in 2024, lead generation and, is still going to be a big topic. Like, how am I going to be generating more business? And in order to generate more business, you have to be talking and having conversations with more people. And, I know there's a few schools of thoughts on that. Like people are like, just get more people in your database. My thought is always like, I don't know how many people you have, but are you calling the people that you currently have? Don't give yourself more things to do if you haven't even done this part yet. I don't know, Carol, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's why we were talking about coming up with good excuses to reach out, and whether it's thanking folks for business this past year or years past, and that at the end of the year, you think of that person or that individual every year and the transactions that you've done with them. I think coming up with ideas and reasons to stay involved and stay in touch is also important. And then, yes, of course, coming up with what you want to do in 2024 and start working on that now. I mean, look, it's only around the corner here.
Yeah, absolutely. It is.
I don't even count the days. Please don't count the days.
No, I don't count the days either. I don't count the days.
We're still wondering where August and September went, let alone a few years have gone by. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. But I think that's like something for everyone to figure out, is that like, what's your 2024? What are you going to focus on there? Are you going to focus on, do you have a couple of hundred people in your database that maybe have not transacted with you, in a long time or ever? Look and see who is in your database. I think that's where a lot of potential is in there. And it's just untapped.
Yeah, it's not just the clients, it's not just past clients, it's also potential clients. So those, like you said, your database is going to be filled with a lot of different things, a lot of different individuals and a lot of different contacts that you hopefully acquired and kept track of over the years. So
yeah. And I think that that's something, for me, I take out some part of my my month, probably an hour or two, where I go and I clean up my database. I go in and I add notes that I'm like, ooh, did I put all of that in here? Or I think I saw last week so-and-so had a birthday. Let me make sure that birthday is in there, or whatever it is. A lot of times I text myself things that I need to like put in, something that's maybe not as pressing as something else. Like I had a friend that just recently had a baby, and I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that I put the baby's name in there, and I didn't have a chance to do it right there and then. So it's something that I just do. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this. That's part of my hour in my month that I'm updating things. Or this person left this company and went to that company. So a title update or whatever it is, you have to make sure that you're updating your contacts regularly, not just the conversations that you're having, but the things that you see and that you become aware of that are important.
Set it up as a task.
Yeah. I do. I set it up. I mean, I have that on my calendar, and I'm like, this is my this is my time. This is my time that I need this for my database update. And then I'm big on time blocking. So making sure that I block off time to get my tasks done, and then make my phone calls. If you don't set it up as a priority, then it just won't happen. So that's my way of setting it up as a priority, saying like, this is when this is going to get done. And so having that all on your calendar in your CRM, and then knowing who it is that you're calling. So every single time that you get off the phone with one of your contacts in your database, setting up that next follow-up phone call based on your conversation. Like, oh, okay, well, nothing really, like maybe they're not thinking about moving or doing anything, but that's okay. You don't have to only call to say like, hey, you're gonna buy or sell right now. It could be like, okay, I'll just check in with you a few months later, and you can just check in once a quarter, twice a year, whatever it is. But those one-on-one phone calls could lead to, them referring you to somebody else, introducing you to somebody.
I'm glad you brought that up, because at first glance, that sounds so overwhelming. Like, oh, how am I going to, every time I make a phone call, I've got to stop and take some notes now after that phone call, or make some notes, or what have you. And the truth is, it becomes second nature once you start doing it. It's kind of like the old Brian Buffini, have the 5 note cards on your desk and write those out. Don't complete your day without sending out 5 notes every single day. Well,
Yeah.
First glance, you're like, I don't have time for that. But then when you start doing it, it becomes a habit, and you don't feel like your day's complete until you have done that. So I think you're right. When you've made that contact, to be sure you put some notes in there, and to be sure you've taken the next step.
Yeah, I think that's the part. And one of my friends, Ryan, out in California, what he does is that every single person that he talks to goes on his call list. And after he's done calling them, he's putting in his notes and he's doing all this and that. He puts his, he reads his notes, he puts in his, follow-up, and he's setting them up for the next conversation that they're going to have. And it could just be like, hey, so tell me about the kids, or tell me about the dog, or what happened with this, or, what happened with that. And then he completes this. And so at the end of his day, 5 o'clock every day, his call list should be set to 0. Like there shouldn't be any calls left on his call list, because he's made every single person. And so then once you, and the way that our call list works, it can be used like dialing for dollars, where you can just, just from one phone call to another, using our built-in dialer or some other fashion, but really is about making it easy for you to have the notes section right here for you to add your notes and then set up that next phone call. Because once you hang up and you've added your notes, you're not going to go back and set up the follow-up. Most people won't. So doing that and having that done right there and then on the spot is, I think, is really an important aspect of everything.
I see you just got a question about talk to text too. So
yes, yeah, you can. So from your phone, I use that all day long. I use that. I use that a lot.
We've kind of gotten spoiled by it.
We have. It helps with so many things though. It helps with, I think it helps tremendously with spelling. Like your spelling mistakes go down to 0 unless you're, you talk super fast or kind of a low talker. But spelling is the number one thing. So then you're not like using shorthand where you're like, what does that stand for again? So I think that's like a big thing. It's a time saver. That's a big one. So that would be done through your phone. But yeah, I think all of these tools, all of these things that we've been mentioning, are things that are just really easily done. Once you put a little bit of time and effort into it, now's that opportunity when things are slowing down and people are just kind of, some parts of the country are, inundated with cold weather, and, they might have some snow and whatnot. Here in Arizona, at least in the valley, it is cold. In my opinion, it's cold.
I know, I was wearing a huge coat this morning. I had a morning meeting and everybody was kind of giggling at me because they were from Colorado and they're like, seriously, I've on this huge coat. And I'm like, it's cold. It was 44. I mean,
Yeah,
come
it's
on.
cold. It is cold. So, take that time, cozy up under a blankie in front of the fire with a glass of wine and just update your contacts, get your checklist going, get your triggers going, contact our support, have those conversations with our support staff, watch some of our videos. There's a lot of things that you can be doing in order, in order to be increasing that, what your business can look like in 2024. So, does Wise Agent have an automated system to enter in the contacts that I already have over the past 25 years? Yes. So you can import your contacts. There's a importing tool that you can utilize. There's all sorts of things that you can do. I do believe, like, if you have everything on a spreadsheet, you're going to be going from the spreadsheet now to the CRM. We can help you sort all that through and get that into your Wise Agent account seamlessly. So without any problem.
Yes, take it from the shoebox, put it in a spreadsheet, take it from the spreadsheet, put it in Wise Agent.
Yeah. And and this is, so we're sitting here talking about like preparing for 2024. I like to, I don't know how I amass just junk sometimes. I'm like, what is all this? Why do I have clutter around me or stuff around me? I don't like too much stuff around me. I'm a minimalist. And so I had all these business cards from all my travels. And what I do is I scan business cards. They go into a spreadsheet and then I can import them into my Wise Agent account really easily. And so I don't have a shoebox, but I have an Amazon box full of business cards because they just were in drawers and on my desk and like in piles. And I'm like, I don't need all of these. I don't need the physical cards anymore. I have all the contact information. So sometimes it's about getting it in that one central location. Then you can declutter if you're like me. Like, I don't like a lot of stuff near me. I'm a minimalist. So, think about it as decluttering. And getting your business organized in that way. Because you don't want to have the shoebox incident where you've alphabetized or organized your contacts, your business cards by importance, and then the shoebox goes flying and then there you go. So can you elaborate more on how you scan your cards? So I bought a business card scanner off of Amazon. I think it was like $90. I think it was called like World One Connect or something along those lines.
And they're pretty darn good now. When they first started, when they first came out with those, they weren't as good as they are now. Now they're really pretty darn good at making sure everything's in the right field. Yeah. And I love that scanner.
Yeah. Yeah. And it'll scan both sides of the business card. So if they have things on front and back, and it'll put the image in. And so then you can, you scan it, everything you scan goes into a spreadsheet. You take that CSV file, and you can just literally and I'll show you, I'll click on my screen here. You can click on our imports portion once you have that CSV file, and you can say, okay, I'm going to import contacts into Wise Agent. You just browse for that file and import. And that really is it. It'll give you a list here of all of the different field names that we accept, and it'll try and match what you have in your spreadsheet. If you find like, ooh, this isn't always exactly matching, you can just contact our support, but there's an example CSV file that you can download, and it'll show you what those column headers need to be. That's the most important part. Is your column headers need to be the appropriate names, and then but we parse through those, and then also making sure that the data is in the right field. So like if it says zip code, it should have only a zip code. It shouldn't have a city name, or else it's going to screw things up. So I think that's a big time saver. At least it is for me. So speaking of time, we have 1 minute left. Carol, thanks so much for being on and for sharing.
Oh, happy to be here.
Conversation. Yeah. So
I think most important today is to kind of remind everyone, get that system in place. It doesn't matter what it is, get the system in place, and that system using Wise Agent, oh my goodness, will change your life. So it doesn't matter where you are in the process right now, make it happen. And it doesn't matter where you start, but to set yourself up for a very successful 2024, now's the time. Now's the time. And Wise Agent makes it so easy. So
It does.
appreciate you so much.
Oh, I appreciate you, Carol. Thank you. You're not only a good dear friend to me, but to all of us here. So we appreciate you and everyone that's been watching too. So next week is I'm not going to be on. I've not started my Christmas shopping. So talk about organization or lack of, right? So I need to do that next week, but I will be back on the 28th with Brandon. Actually, Brandon Wise, our CEO, and I are going to be talking on December 28th at 10 a.m. I haven't, my note says Mountain Standard Time. I hope that's right. I don't know if Arizona is Mountain Standard. I don't know what time zone we're in. I just know it's Arizona time. And we're doing an end of year wrap up. So we're going to be talking about all the things that we've accomplished, the team has accomplished this past year, and then looking forward to 2024 and what we're going to be working on. So we're going to give you all some sneak peeks on some things. We got some fun things that we're working on. Carol got a sneak peek this morning, right before this, on what we're going to be doing. So, so we're going to clue you all in on that on the 28th. So I hope you guys can all join Brandon and I then. But for now, thanks, Carol, so much for being on. I wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Oh, like